Hey there, ballet lovers! It is time for the Athletistry Debrief. I'm Shane Worthner, a seasoned ballet coach with a passion for helping dancers reach their full potential. I'll be breaking down the coaching and corrections I've used during the past week of teaching so that you can take your technique to the next level. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, if you're ready to get serious about ballet and take your technique to that next level, strap in and let's get started. This is the Athletistry Debrief. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Athletistry Debrief. My name is Shane Worthner, and I am excited to be here tonight to talk to you about the corrections that I have given this past week and the things that have stood out the most in my classes. I'm really excited to dive into this one today because it's something that I find is really important for dancers to help them to improve their artistry and the way that they present themselves, and it starts at the bar. Okay, so we're going to probably get up a little bit as we go through this, but I just want to start out here and talk to you guys about the dynamic of your movements. So one of the things that I have been picking up on a lot this week is that it's almost like people are dancing and speaking in this really monotonous tone the entire time, and everything is moving at the exact same pace throughout all of their dancing, and it gets really boring. Because if I were to talk to you like that for the next 20 minutes, you would be thinking, what is going on? I can't listen to this guy. It's terrible. It's awful, right? So what we have to find in our dancing is the way that we can explain ourselves with our movement in a way that keeps people engaged, it keeps people interested, it keeps them wanting to see what we are giving to them with our dancing. And the way that that starts is at the bar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up and I'm going to show you something really quick with a tendu. Now, watch this, guys. If I come over here to my bar and I come into my fifth position and I do 4 tendus to the front, and then 4 tendus to the side, and then 4 tendus to the back, and then 4 to the side. Technically, not bad, right? Like, they were okay, but kind of monotonous. There was no clarity in the way that I was working. Now watch the difference. All right, now let's talk about this for a second. In that first example, where I was kind of just going through opening, closing, no change in my rhythm, no holding in the fifth position, you could see that it was just kind of flowing. It just didn't stop. There was no difference in any of the tendus. It just kept going. Whereas in the second version, I had a little pause in the fifth each time that I closed. And that pause was like my punctuation. If you're reading a story or you're reading a book or you're reading anything, really, you're going to see that there's punctuation given at certain times to help the reader to understand what kind of accent, what kind of understanding they should be taking from those words. The same thing happens in our dance. When we're moving, when we're explaining things with our body, we have to punctuate that so that the dancer, so that the audience really understands what we're trying to explain with our movement. So, how do we do that? Now, this can be done in different ways, guys. You can change this, you can do this all throughout your class in different ways with each of the different combinations that you're practicing, but you have to find for yourself what that punctuation is. So in the case of the tendus that I just gave there, really all we were doing was holding for a little bit longer in fifth position and trying to get back into that fifth position each time to give that clarity. The reason why this is so important is because, again, as the audience, if you're not seeing that clarity, you're not going to know what's going on. And as the dancer, it's going to look muddied. It's going to look like we don't know where to look. We don't know what emphasis is being put on anything. It's kind of like if you were in a big snowstorm and you just kept seeing white and white, white, eventually you would go blind, right? It's the same thing here. If there's no clarity, there's no punctuation, the movement isn't being expressed in a specific way to get a specific output, then the audience is not going to fully understand it. Now, obviously, different dynamics can be used. So, for example, I could have stayed out for longer, or I could have done some out, some in, right? And this is where it starts to get more interesting as you become a more advanced dancer. You can play with the musicality a little bit. You can move faster in some places. You can move slower in some places, and it doesn't always have to be the same. But you, as the artist, are then trying to give a certain story or a certain quality to your movement that tells your story the way that you want it to be told. Okay, so how do we practice this? How do we use this in our dancing? Basically, the whole goal is to go to the bar, and when a teacher is giving a combination, this is where you as the student can pay really close attention to what kind of accent they're asking for. Because a good teacher will be able to say, okay, I want accent in, accent out. I want you to accentuate the point here. I want you to accentuate the rond de jambe. I want you to take more time in the fondu and then get faster out. There's different ways that we can utilize our musicality and that quality of dynamic to explain that. And the teacher is going to usually be asking for something specific. Now, when we come to the bar, actually any combination really, and we're starting out that combination, usually there's a 4 count or an 8 count intro to the combination. Now, it's going to be more specific if you have a pianist playing for class, but if you're listening to recorded music, it's going to be there also. That 4 count intro is super important because that's what's going to dictate to you the rhythm that you're going to be doing in the combination. Okay, so if it goes bum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum, you know it's going to be pretty quick. If it goes da 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 da, you know you're going to have a slower combination that you're about to do. And so that's something that plays into later on in our dancing when we're performing. If you're performing for a live orchestra and you have the conductor at the front of the room, and let's say you go and take a preparation for your variation, and it's maybe a slower variation, and you go ba-dum, ba-dum, the conductor's going to say, okay, he wants to move quickly today because he's watching you, you're watching him, and you go like this. The conductor's going to say, all right, let's go, and he's going to make that orchestra play quickly. This is if you have a conductor that is watching and paying attention. Not always the case. Sorry, conductors. Now, when we go like this, so let's say we really took a big preparation, very clear, you're showing the rhythm that you want to dance. And the conductor probably also at the same time is out there going like this, right? So you can take that from him and you can see, okay, what's going to be the rhythm? How much am I going to get out of this? And if you're really good at practicing that at the bar, in your combinations, when you're listening to that preparation at the beginning of a combination, that's going to help you when you get into your variations and you know how to present that rhythm for your dancing. Okay? Now, a good teacher will also find a way to sing their combinations when they teach them, because this is going to help you to learn the combination first of all, and then second of all, it's going to help you to understand what rhythm you want to have when you're dancing that combination or when you're practicing that combination. So if they start to go and a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 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 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, right? Like they're going to have something there where they've given you a rhythm as they are explaining the combination. And for the pianist who's playing, that pianist is going to be able to recreate that in their music. And then for you as the dancer, you're going to be able to use that to build that dynamic within your dancing so that you are learning the different patterns that you can use as a dancer later on as you develop artistry and become that professional that's ready to perform at a high level. Okay? So overall, guys, what are the things that we're looking at? What are the things that I've seen a lot this week? I've seen a lot of them kind of muddied combinations, so things not really clarified. The punctuation in the dancing not being clear enough. We need to see each of those positions. It's really good to see the out position and the in position. We don't need to see quite so much of the pathway between those two, right? We need to see where you're going to and where you're coming from, but not necessarily how you're getting there. Sometimes we can, but that's again going to be a dynamic choice. Other things, making sure that the clarity of your positions is there, making sure that you're following the dynamic that's set by the teacher. And just on a side note with that, as you're following that dynamic, paying attention to the port de bras that's given, paying attention to the position of the heads, paying attention to the line of the body, all that stuff. We'll talk more about line in a future video. But all that stuff plays into it because the teacher is usually trying to get something. They have a reason why they're giving the combination they're giving. And if you're not following along with those things, you're missing out on half of the information that is actually being presented to you to help you to become better. So paying attention to the lines, paying attention to the punctuation and how you're expressing yourself through the movement, and then understanding that musically, if you can find those different types of dynamic within your dancing, when you get onto stage later on as a professional dancer, it'll be much easier for you to find that. Your dancing will be more interesting. People will connect with you because your storytelling and your presentation will be super clear. I hope this has helped you guys. I hope you're enjoying these debriefs. If you are, please hit the subscribe and like button or whatever it is that we do here on YouTube. And I can't wait to see you guys next week for the next episode.